In 1847, on the banks of the Mississippi, a senator's wife performed a forbidden ritual. By dawn, she was found covered in blood and strange symbols, and the land itself would never be the same. They say what happened that night at the Bogard Plantation didn't just haunt Louisiana, it rewrote the soul of the South. Welcome to Echoes of the Past, where every whisper of history hides a truth too dark to forget. Tonight, we travel deep into the forgotten heart of antebellum Louisiana to uncover a story erased from record, a ritual buried beneath sugarcane and silence, and the legacy of a woman who may have changed America's spiritual history forever. The year was 1847. Baton Rouge was a city divided, half trapped in the grandeur of old Creole aristocracy, half built on the suffering that sustained it. At its center stood Senator Theodore Bogard, wealthy, powerful, and utterly convinced of his right to rule. His estate, the Bogard Plantation, stretched across 3,000 acres, with more than 100 enslaved men and women working the fields under a merciless Louisiana sun. But it wasn't Theodore who stirred whispers in Baton Rouge's drawing rooms. It was his wife, Charlotte Bogard, young, intelligent, beautiful, and somehow always a little distant. People said she studied languages no one spoke anymore: French, Latin, even fragments of African dialects learned from the women in the quarters. She moved through the world like someone half dreaming, as if she could see something the rest of them could not. That summer, a strange sickness swept through the region. Men and women burned with fever, then froze in death within hours. Doctors called it yellow fever, but privately admitted they'd never seen anything like it. And that's when Charlotte began her nightly walks, leaving the house after dark, barefoot, clutching a leather satchel. She said she was delivering medicine to the sick, but those who saw her swore she carried herbs, powders, and something darker. On the night of August 14th, the Bogards hosted a dinner for the city's elite. At midnight, Charlotte excused herself, saying she felt unwell. She never returned to the table. Witnesses later claimed they saw her walking toward the slave quarters, her white nightgown trailing in the dirt, her eyes unfocused, as if she were being led. In the quarters, a midwife named Celia was tending to a sick girl when Charlotte appeared in the doorway, whispering in a language no one understood. Then she opened her satchel, and the walls began to shake. The sky above the Bogard Plantation glowed green that night, like the northern lights had come to Louisiana. Those who saw it said the air itself trembled, and then came the scream. Not human, but something deeper, like the earth itself crying out. By dawn, Charlotte was found lying in the dirt outside the keeping house, her gown soaked in strange symbols drawn in blood. Her eyes were open but empty. Within days, every record of the event vanished. The witnesses were sold, scattered, or silenced. The keeping house burned to the ground. By accident, they said, but the land never recovered. In the months that followed, Charlotte returned to life, but not the same life she'd known. She avoided mirrors. She flinched at church bells. And when she thought no one was watching, she traced invisible symbols in the air. Senator Bogard's mind began to unravel. He spoke of dreams filled with light and shadow, of a child that wasn't a child at all, something that visited him each night, showing him futures that could have been, and demanding he make amends for the past. In the Senate, he proposed laws no one could explain, reparations for the enslaved, land returned to indigenous tribes, ideas a century ahead of their time. His colleagues called him insane, but his private journals tell another story. He wrote, "The child grows stronger. It whispers to the sleeping. It plants justice in the minds of the guilty. The child is the future, reaching back to reshape the past." Professor Augustus Brenner, a scholar who survived that night, spent the rest of his life trying to understand what had happened. He discovered it wasn't an isolated event. 17 plantations, from Georgia to Mississippi, had seen the same patterns: educated white women, secret ties to enslaved midwives and healers, rituals performed under certain stars, each one a node in a web, a vast, hidden network working to heal something deeper than any wound. Brenner wrote, "The land remembers every drop of blood, every broken life. And when the weight becomes too heavy, it speaks." In 1852, Charlotte gave birth to a son, Gabriel, a normal child in every way but one. He saw things no one taught him. He spoke languages he'd never heard. And when he touched an object, He knew every life that had ever held it. As a man, Gabriel became a shadow figure in the abolitionist movement, appearing where he was most needed, exposing slave markets, guiding fugitives north. Those who met him said it felt like speaking to all their ancestors at once. Charlotte died 12 years to the day after the ritual, peaceful but marked. Her skin bore patterns, words in dozens of languages, telling the stories of those erased from history. A nun copied every symbol before they vanished, a secret archive of the forgotten, hidden to this day in a New Orleans convent. When Theodore died, he told his son, "Every debt is paid, though not always by those who incurred it. The land remembers everything. Make sure you remember, too." The plantation burned in 1863. The fire was said to burn cold, light without heat, and nothing grew on that land again, except blood-red flowers, blooming only on August 15th and December 24th. Locals called it the Remembering Ground, a place where the lost could be heard singing, not ghosts, but memories refusing to die. In 1923, workers found a buried metal box beneath the ruins. Inside was a letter, written in Charlotte's hand, dated the day before the ritual. She confessed everything. A network of women across the South, wives and daughters of planters, taught in secret by enslaved women who carried the old knowledge. Together they performed a ritual not of hate, but of justice, to make the land remember. She wrote, "Through our bodies, the denied future forces itself into the present. What we release tonight will not be pleasant, but it will be true. Today, the Bogard plantation is nothing but an empty field. But on humid nights, locals still hear singing, African chants, work songs, and prayers rising together like one great voice. Some say the child born of shadow still walks among us, not as a person, but as the collective memory of justice delayed too long, because the land remembers. And sometimes it demands that we remember too." What do you think really happened at the Bogard plantation? Was Charlotte Bogard a victim of forces beyond her control, or the architect of something far greater? Share your thoughts below. And if this story sent chills down your spine, subscribe to Echoes of the Past for more untold truths from the dark corners of history, because some secrets refuse to stay buried. And when they rise, they change everything.